This will now be the third video that's been centred around the restoration of this matchbox Vauxhall Guildsman, along with two others that it was very heavily involved in. This is where we're up to. Given its first tint by hand, which went quite well. If that same tint had been applied to glass that was in good condition, that would have been a very good outcome indeed. But it wasn't the case. Now, what you saw there, where I'd repaired the hole before in the rear window, that had left a depression, so I've built that up with a little bit more super glue. Well, too much more super glue. And it needed levelling off, and I chose to be quite churlish and uncivilised and do that levelling off with a hacksaw. So it's a bit of a butcher's job, really. I mean, I'm trying in vain here to sand it smooth on the 600 grit, well, an unknown grit sanding pad that's been converted into a 600 grit one by applying some 600 grit cloth. But you can see, although it might be sanding down where I built the repair up, I've also managed to sort of hack into, obviously not meaning to, but hack into the glass with the hacksaw blade. And you can see as well where it was originally repaired, there's depressions there, and there's other cracks that I wasn't sure about. So to cut a long story short, I haven't really repaired this glass properly in the first place, so it's time to repair it properly. Now, I've cut out a couple of little spreaders just from some bits of scrap card. There's no point paying good money for things like this when you can just make them. So I'm using these spreaders to just completely coat the areas that where there's any depressions or any grooves caused by cracks, or any cracks that are still there. I'm using this to sort of work the glue into the cracks as well, and then just using these little spreaders that I've made to get it even all over, so that when I sand it next time, it'll be a much easier process, and there'll be no need for any more butchery, savagery, thuggery to be unleashed on this piece of plastic glass. So yeah, just carefully work it in. Like I say, anywhere where there's a crack, it's the same principle as car body filling or plastering even. You're just trying to get a thin layer of super glue. You don't really want a layer of super glue over the whole thing. It's just that you want to make sure that any cracks or imperfections are completely covered up. Because if you've resorted to measures such as this, you don't want to be doing this again. I am showing this in quite excruciating detail. I have cut some of it out. There was quite a bit more messing around that I did on the front half of it. We're moving on to the back half now, but it's just to show you what you need to do. That's all. It's worth watching. I mean, there's no point in just seeing a few seconds of this and not really knowing what's involved. As I said, there's quite a bit of footage to go with this. It is, I think, like I say, I think it is worth watching. Put it this way, if you're still watching at this point, you may as well just see another minute of it. But there's not a lot for me to really say, because it is just putting a bit of glue on and then just spreading it into cracks. So I can either shut up for a bit, or I can start being weird. I'll shut up for a bit. So I'm going to start talking again now, because the video's about to take a dramatic turn. We're just about ready to paint the body. I mean, if you forget about the glass, if you forget the glass even exists, just pretend this is like a open top thing. This restoration is actually going swimmingly. It's only the glass that's really making it take so long. The body's polished up beautifully. So it's time to get out the dreaded nail bar airbrush. Talking of which, I've had a couple of people say that say some quite unkind things about this airbrush, and I'm not entirely sure why. Well, I've an idea why. Because, yeah, I get that it looks ridiculous, and I get that it's designed for doing nails with or whatever, but that's not a problem. It doesn't know. And I get the fact that it sounds a bit hokey as well. I mean, I've turned the volume down quite a bit on this so you can't hear the buzz from it, because it does sound like a set of barbershop clippers when it's going. But now I get why a more expensive airbrush will be more pleasurable to use and it'll look nicer and things like that. But I've used more expensive airbrush. I mean, I've used really expensive spray guns to spray real cars with in their entirety. And as ridiculous looking and sounding as this thing might be, and as cheap as it might be, and as easy to maintain as it might be, the end result is the same. So I don't get where these unkind remarks are coming from, unless it's just, see, look at that. You're not really going to get better than that from your £200 highbrow thing that the guy down at the model shop managed to talk you into. Maybe it's just sour grapes from people who did spend a lot of money on an airbrush, and this is kind of making them think that for this kind of work they perhaps didn't need to. I don't know. I mean, don't worry if that's your problem. You won't be replacing your airbrush anywhere near as often as I'm replacing mine. I mean, all right, I've got 2 of these things and they're still going for now, but we're only 3 or 4 months in. They're going to go at some point. We know this. So I'll probably have to buy 10 during the lifespan of your expensive airbrush. So there's really no need for this. This is just, you can see that the end result's the same. So for somebody who just wants to try the hobby out or just get started on it and hasn't got that kind of money to throw around, it makes a lot of sense. And there's no point pouring scorn on it, because that is just spreading misinformation. You can see the result is the same. If you're getting better results than me with your expensive airbrush, it might just be that you're actually better than me at airbrushing. It won't be anything to do with the airbrush itself. I was getting the same results when I used to use the more expensive ones. Anyway, rant over. I mean, it's not like I'm taking it as a personal attack. I just don't like people spreading false things, that's all. So I've been sanding this down. What I did, I actually started sanding it off with 1500 grit sanding cloth, thinking it was 600, and then was surprised when the 1000 grit actually got a lot more off. Now, this looks awful, I'll grant you. The end result, it doesn't look nice, but it's completely free of imperfections and cracks and depressions and things like that. So we're going to try tinting it again, this time with a mixture of, well, the 2 greens that you just saw there. One's more of a teal, one's more of a lime green. Somewhere between the 2 should give us a nice steady sort of mid-green, fairly darkish. So, yep, the much maligned airbrush is coming back into play. Now, I could have done this in the same way that I did the first one. I could have just done it using just kind of pouring the tint over it, over that Hot Wheels blister, that sort of slightly Heath Robinson looking but quite effective sort of manual way of doing it. I mean, I did that mainly to show, just if you haven't got an airbrush at all, it doesn't really matter, you can still do it and get the same result at the end. So I could have done this just in the same method, but I thought I'd just do it with the airbrush, just to show 2 different methods of doing it more than anything. I would add at this point though, I haven't thoroughly tested. I think I've done it and I think it's been alright, but I've yet to thoroughly test actually applying thinned Tamiya clear or transparent colours using an airbrush onto matchbox glass. I can't say for sure that if you applied it directly to the glass that it wouldn't cause some kind of cloudiness like a lot of solvent-based aerosols tend to, because if you thinned it, there's obviously some solvent in there. I've got a feeling I've done it in the past and it's been fine. But the main reason I'm doing it now with confidence is because there's already a layer of Tamiya on there. So you're quite free to use thinned Tamiya clear onto matchbox glass when there's already a layer on there, because it acts as like a barrier. So this is where we are at the moment. I mean, it's painful almost, because if this had nice glass, this would be done now and it would be looking great. But as it is, you can still see. I mean, the good thing is we seem to have got rid of any depressions or cracks or anything like that. The light, although it looks slightly orange peel, I think that's because I could have probably sanded the glass smoother than I did. I think that's why we've got the kind of orange peel effects. But we haven't got any cloudiness, so It's looking good. I'll see you for the next part. But don't have a go at my airbrush. Thanks for watching.